Pipeline, Power, Hour. Natalie Johnson Charles, VP of Revenue Marketing at Outreach. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Ian?
I am so excited to chat about outbound strategies to drive demand. But first, what is revenue marketing at Outreach?
Yeah, for sure. So, as the VP of Revenue Marketing at Outreach, I'm actually responsible for overall top line pipeline growth and creation, in addition to customer retention. So, that includes net ARR. So, my team is actually organized around a demand center of excellence. We have campaigns and integrated campaigns, and then I have a newly formed ABM and field marketing team that is more aligned to sales to make sure that they are hitting their numbers.
Yeah, it feels kind of like this is, perhaps the sign of a new normal in demand.
Yeah, just definitely in this economic environment, I think.
All right, so what is your definition of an outbound program?
So to me, I hear a lot of nuanced definitions, and for me, it's really more of a coordinated effort across marketing and sales. You have to have the sales buy-in from the get-go, otherwise I don't think that you're going to see success. But basically, marketing is going to do the due diligence, get the input, identify the cohort of accounts, and make sure they understand the strategy of what they're trying to achieve. And today we're going to talk about a couple different approaches that you can take. It can be around net new logo creation, it can be around pipeline expansion and cross-sell opportunities, or it can even be around retention. But the overall premise is that you're together jointly identifying what you want to take down. You're pulling the list of accounts and pulling all the data intelligence to get you to the right contacts, the right target account list. And then you're building out the programmatic bill of materials that you will then operationalize through sales with an agreed upon, KPI cadence, as well as what you're trying to achieve.
Awesome. So let's get into it. Natalie's 3 plays. Let's start with the first one.
All right. So I mentioned that there's 3 different approaches, so I'm bringing 3 different examples. So one of my favorite ones for net new logo acquisition is around the concept of change agent. And I've run this a couple different times at a couple different companies, but the premise is that so many people are changing jobs these days and age. I think there's a stat around 40% are changing each year. But typically your company already knows who their champions are. So you're able to identify that. You look at the skill set. You can use vendors like user gems to identify, where that change might be happening. And if they fit within the criteria of your net new logo universe, you're then designing the programming to go after them. So this could be anything from a concerted effort of welcoming gift packages that you're sending through your outreach sequences through Senzoso or Postal. It can be making sure that they are set up for success. So this is run again through the SDR or the AE. Complementing them with any content that you might customize on your end, just to make them more successful in their new role. So the overall gist of this is just to get that first meeting when that, existing champion is in a new space.
All right, play number 2.
Play number 2. All right, so this one's going to be around expansion, and it can also be used for a new logo. But this is what I'm calling is the deferment trigger. So in any sales cycle, you're always going to have the reason why a deal is being deferred or a meeting is being deferred. It could be anything from budget not being available until later in the year. It could be just because decision-making processing is taking too long. But the point of this is that there's always that reason, and there's a way for marketing and sales to work together to get the right messaging in front of that individual when the deferment period has lapsed. So you can actually automate this through outreach so that you're actually hitting at the right compelling time. And if you want to just quickly get started, you can pull a list of accounts where you know that it's happening within the next 6 months and make sure that you guys are on top of getting that messaging in front of that audience. I think some of the more exciting advancements that are going to be happening around this is around some of the advancements within generative AI. So we now offer Smart Email Assist, which is going to be able to actually dynamically propagate those emails to look back at previous behavior, to look at the reasons why they deferred, and it really won't require that much interaction from marketing. So we'll be able to set that up alongside of our sales teams, and I'm really excited to get that going now that this is in beta.
Yeah, this is one of those things that we've talked about on our podcast, which is, these sort of black swan events that happen, and then you have all these deferments, right? It's like, the tech apocalypse stuff, or, when it was COVID, or, all these sort of events that happen where it's like, okay, there's like a reason for deferment. So how are we going to message this? How are we going to message it? And there's all the normal reasons, then there's these sort of other events. And I love the idea of just planning ahead, thinking about these deferments, thinking about the way that you're messaging them, because it's like so often done in a very clunky way. And it's often just left up to the rep. And like, if the rep is just sort of like 7 straight emails, like checking in. It can be it can be a little frustrating.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing I failed to mention is that marketing obviously can warm these accounts up. So once we know who these people are, we can move through some IP targeted messaging to make sure that we're getting the marketing air cover, just to make that conversation and that, potential deferment trigger actually precipitate into something worth a meeting.
Yeah, one of the things that we do for that is invite them on to podcasts. So, if you have a podcast channel, it's a great way to do a nurture. It's like, hey, we're not ready to buy. In 8 months, we're ready to buy. It's like, hey, how about in 2 months you come on and co-create some content with us. So, yeah, I love that. Cool. I love that play. All right, number 3.
All right, number 3, getting into competitive intelligence. So I'm actually going to parlay this one more to the retention, but you can use this across any strategy. You've probably run this before, but I'm really into the one where you're actually looking at competitive intelligence of, let's say that some competitors are coming after you and they're saying that their product is free. So what you're doing is you're actually scrubbing against 6 Sense or demand-based intelligence, looking at G2 Crowd and seeing where potential customers of your base are comparing your capabilities to that competitor. You're pulling that list, and then you're more proactively going after them from an air cover standpoint, again, through what marketing can do, and then also feeding the right prescriptive and proactive messaging with that value message through the sales teams, through the sequences, to make sure that you're proactively getting against that potential retention slip.
I love that. That's really cool. These 3 things obviously working in concert together, and not just for the sort of demand acquisition play, but also like, this whole customer life cycle journey. Demand is changing. The idea that, this other side that you've taken over as well. I'm curious, just how do you sort of stay up with the trends? How do you stay up on all this stuff to be able to, create new plays?
Well, I've actually really enjoyed listening to Demand Gen Visionaries. Ian. And there's a couple other great podcasts that I do listen to on a reoccurring basis. But for the most part, reading up, staying on top of LinkedIn conversations. I'm really into the Chat GPT. All the prompts have been coming out in terms of how to better operationalize. That has been intriguing to me. But I think we're at a really pivotal point in terms of where we can automate a lot of this more successfully to make our teams more effective. It can still be personalized. It's just a matter of putting the time in and the input, and making sure you're strategic and that you're all aligned in terms of what the outcome should be.
This has been awesome, Natalie. Any final thoughts? Anything that Outreach is up to?
Well, I would encourage everyone to listen to our Explore Plus recording from last week. We announced a lot of new announcements that we're really excited about. I think we've got a great momentum around, what we're looking to deliver from a true, create and close platform, and everything that sellers can do within one UI. Everything from creating conversations, automating those, to listening to call recordings with the conversational AI, pipeline management, all the way to forecasting. So it's a really exciting year for Outreach, and encourage any of the sellers that are on this call to take a look.
Fast and Furious Pipeline Power Hour. Natalie, thanks so much for joining. We really appreciate it.